So this one, I got a bit, not a bee in my bonnet is the wrong thing, but if we've got hundreds of billions of pounds to spend on dictatorship,
Mhm.
then in a democracy, do you ever need to
Ask.
ask permission to do anything?
Um, I don't think you should. Should you?
So if we all have law that
Mm-hmm.
is set,
Mm-hmm.
and these laws get taken over by an act or statute,
Yeah.
that then when we listen to the law in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and they say that all of these laws are based upon this, this, and this, then how can that law have an act put onto it, but it erodes more freedom? So I got an example here,
Yeah.
okay? Um, and this is coming out of the horse's mouth, and I'm sure other people have gone through this at one stage or another in their life. So I have some solar panels, yeah?
Yeah.
And I had some solar panels,
Mm-hmm.
but I had the council come here to do a different job, which was to look at disrepair in the house, yes?
Yeah.
But they were focused on my solar panels, saying that I'm not allowed them.
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask permission. And I was just like, so I have to ask you? Yeah, yeah, said the council. And
Mm-hmm.
then Saffron kind of were like, oh, yeah, I think that's in the tenancy agreement. And we got this thing called a tenancy agreement.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter whether uh, if you buy land
Mm-hmm.
here,
Yeah.
if you rent, most people rent because they can't afford to buy anything. And that's practically how it is. But you have this thing called a tenancy agreement. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we also have a law that
Mm.
everyone is supposed to follow, yes?
Yeah.
So the law states that you can't control anybody,
Mm.
yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're not allowed to control anyone. And everyone is supposed to formulate in the United Kingdom around laws.
Yeah.
So when we look at the world stage, and I look at Ukraine, I look at Russia, I look at what Trump's saying, I look at what this country's saying, yeah?
Yeah.
And we take that in. Here in the West, we say that we're democracy, right? Free world. Leader of the free world is America, yes? That
Yeah.
leads the free world.
Yeah.
And we say that we don't like dictatorship,
Mm-hmm.
this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
Dictators, dictators.
Yeah.
But we have dictating institutions within the United Kingdom. To come in and say to somebody inside their home that they're paying a rent, they're also paying this thing called a council tax. We've got a thing here called council tax.
Mm-hmm.
Council tax apparently pays for things like police officers, this, that, and the other. But in other nations, don't have a council tax. Okay, and with this council tax, they're in near enough around the whole of the United Kingdom. It's billions of pounds worth of debt that they've got into because they've mismanaged all of the money. And this has been, and it's kind of weird because in the countryside, you are paying the same amount of council tax as what someone in a city or town is paying. Now, think about that. There are no streetlights here, there are no pathways here. These are all the things that they'll also say that the council tax covers. So technically, in the country, you're paying more council tax, and they'll say, oh, these are different bands. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. I've lived in a town, I've lived in a city, I know people that live in a city, and I have lived in the countryside. The council tax is exactly the frickin' same. Okay? There are different bands depending on whether you get basically benefits, which would be social security in other places, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Then this does come down, granted. But you're still paying this council tax for all of these things. But yet, everywhere else around the world do not pay a council tax. Not at all. So I very much doubt you have councils. But you still have police officers, you still have prisons, you still have this, you still have that. And yet, what we find is each leader comes into power in the United Kingdom and they say, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. I would believe this if it was another nation that was saying it that didn't have council tax.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't have council tax, then yeah, there would be no money. But they're not saying that. But here in Britain, you're paying this tax, food tax, sugar tax, this tax. We're charged tax on sugar. We're charged tax on petrol. And it's the most in any of the free world nations, And even compared to the EU, I think we pay the most tax. I'm not sure about Germany and all the rest, but we pay the most tax on all of this stuff. And yet, there is still no money. So you would think that we would be one of the richest nations with a lot of money, but we're not. But we charge more money, and we have less money.
Yeah.
And this tax pays for dictators in a council and housing associations. So you got a housing association, or you're with a private landlord, and you've got this thing called a tenancy agreement. And they will write things in there that you are responsible for all people that come into your house, your garden. So if someone comes into your garden, commits a crime, you are held responsible for that. You lose your tenancy. You are evicted from your house for that. But the law states that you are not allowed to control anybody.
Yeah.
So you either A, don't have people in your house, and then here's another one that's a funny rule. If you've got houses around here that own to wealthy people, and we know that they're wealthy people because of how big they are.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
You are not allowed to have a shed in your garden.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to ask for it, and apparently it won't be unreasonably withheld. It's rubbish. They do withhold this information. They will not let you have a set of solar panels or this, that, or the other. You can't have a caravan in your garden.
Yeah.
But if you buy a house, you can have a caravan in your garden.
Yeah.
Here's another one for you then. In all social housing or private rented, you are not allowed a 6-foot fence in your front garden.
Yeah.
It has to be 4 foot, and that's what the council say.
Mm-hmm.
So they dictate to you what you can have inside your house. You're
Yeah.
paying the rent.
Yeah.
So they dictate to you what
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
and what you can't have.
Yeah.
Even though they're supposed to be coming into your property to look at disrepair that your landlord is supposed to be taking care of, but they don't take care of it, right? And then they move you into a house with a load of problems. Not everywhere, but this is becoming quite a problem. We've got places here in Britain where no one lives in them because the disrepair from the landlords was so bad that people moved out and they still didn't put this money back in. They think that rent is to put it in their pocket.
Yeah.
And our housing association dictate to us how much the rent is going to go up per month, yes?
Yeah.
And they say that they need it because everything's going up. But they are paying money into charities.
Yeah.
If you've got enough money to pay into the RSPCA as a housing association and a charity that pays another charity.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
And again, when you think of the word, it's called a charity. A registered charities are not allowed to make profit. But yet, all of the CEOs are highly in profit. They make tons of profit each and every single year.
Yeah.
They focus so much on their profit that they don't put it into the repairs.
Mm-hmm.
They play all sorts of games, and in the tenancy agreement, it states that they have to, in terms of the tenancy agreement, do the repairs in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is that you are in a tenancy agreement that they will give you a week. They'll let you know when you call in a repair, they will give you a week's timeline of when somebody is going to be coming to the property.
Yeah.
A week.
Yeah.
No shorter. They can't just turn up. And yet, I'll get a phone call in the morning saying that I'm in the area. Can I come round? Question. Can I come to your property? I'm in the area. I don't call them back. Yes? So that means not today then. Clearly, I'm too busy, not today. And then they turn up on your property, banging on your door.
Yeah.
And as a ruling for this tenancy agreement, they have just broke their rule.
Yeah.
Another rule that they break in there is that they don't keep up with the repairs. You call it in, they ignore it. You break your tenancy agreement by, let's say, getting solar panels, again, which seems very weird, and you don't ask their permission, they can evict you from your property. Now, the council are supposed to be there to make sure they're not acting this way, that they're not being too dictatorship.
Hmm.
Call it what it is. So we're cash cows is one thing that you'll hear mentioned a lot. You have to pay it regardless. So if they give you a house with disrepair and it's been disrepair when you move in, depend on what your circumstances are, which is discrimination. But hey, we'll get onto that as a different topic because the law states you can't discriminate, but you can discriminate if it's a housing association. When you tell the council you feel that you're being discriminated or there's asbestos or anything else like that, the council do not listen to you. They want to come into your house rather than looking at asbestos. They want to look at your solar panels and say, you never got any permission for that, did you? All in good time, I will release the video, but I'm pretty sure they will try and get it under copyright and all the rest of it, or it will be hidden as soon as I put it up, where the housing officer that's supposed to be there for health and safety is trying to say that my solar panels would be detrimental to my daughter or my children's health and safety, but asbestos, mold, weakened immune system, that doesn't fall or categorize into that with the council. No, it's your solar panels.
Yeah.
When we've got somebody that has bought their property, although it's one step up, but it's not the best and be all and end all of everything. Inside these properties of someone that's bought their house, they have got near enough 8-foot fences all the way around their property, the whole way around.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get into their property without going to the front of their big, massive gates that are all the way around it, ring a buzzer, and you have to wait for somebody to let you in. Mm-hmm. So you have a little bit better, because if you are in private housing or you are in social housing, you are not allowed to build that. As soon as you put it up, the council will be at your door telling you to put it down. Mm-hmm. And if you don't put it down, they will threaten you with eviction and you will be evicted. You'll be thrown out of your property. Now, people wouldn't take these measures if their private and personal life was left respected. Mm-hmm. And what's a personal and private life? That your landlord housing association does not have a right to turn up at your property whenever they feel like it. Yeah. They've got no right to go snooping through your property in your garden, but you will find that if they got access, because they can get over a small little 4-foot fence, and they get into your property, they will snoop around it because it's trespass. And trespass isn't all that bad here. In order to prevent them from doing this or turning up at your door, banging on your door at a certain time because you want to be left alone, or you're doing something else that particular day, and your silence says no, you can then keep them outside your property. Well, we know that you were inside the house. I don't really care if you knew that I was inside the house. Not today. Not today. If you think that you can just come round my house at any time you feel like it and expect to be let into my property whenever you want, you can forget it. And you'll say, oh, but then you must not want anything to be fixed. A year later, a year in an unsecure property, in a year in a property where the property is just full of mold and it's causing health concerns throughout the people within it. You didn't care then. You let the property with these problems knowing that they were there. Yeah. And then I can truly keep people out of my property then. And then if anybody comes into my property and starts making a ruckus because they can get in through the unlocked front gate. Yeah. And they start causing a ruckus. You're evicted. That is dictatorship as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And then if you buy a house, you could put this fencing up. Or it seems like all of these houses that I've seen in different locations have the same type of process where they've got this wall that's all the way around the property. Mm-hmm. You can't get into it. You have to really press a buzzer. And whether they choose to answer you or not...
Yeah, they don't have to.
They don't have to. Now, what about if you buy a piece of land? Because we said about buying land, yes?
Yeah.
And here in the United Kingdom, and again, this is all for corporations. Everything is all leaning towards corporations, but yet corporations don't pay tax.
Mm.
Clearly, you have to pay a council tax, and that tax is pushed onto you because you rent the property.
Yeah.
But back in the old law, it stated that if you're paying a tax, you get to live in that property however you see fit. But under the guise of equality, we're
Mhm.
going to change it because it was written that he who pays a council tax,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
he shall live in the property how he sees fit.
Yeah.
In a democracy, you would
Yeah.
expect this from a dictatorship.
Mhm.
We go to war for a dictatorship, and many of our ancestors, our grandparents and great grandparents fought in this,
Yeah.
went through the depression, went
Yeah.
through the lack, went through
Yeah.
the rationing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were any of the elites going through any of this?
No.
Were they rationing?
Never.
No,
No.
no. But our ancestors went through this and fought dictatorship,
Yeah.
only for it to be really alive and thriving throughout our whole nation. You see, I'm cool for you to take a council tax, but what I'm not cool for you to do is come into my home and tell me how to fucking live. Because if that's okay, then can you allow the people to go into the king's palace and tell him how to live?
Yeah.
Can he have some rules written by the public then? Can the government have rules written for them? Can the council members have rules written for them?
Yeah.
Because inside their homes, they have massive walls all the way around their properties.
Mhm.
No one is allowed in there.
Yeah.
If the king or anybody else doesn't want to speak to someone one particular day, they don't have to. They've
Yeah.
got choice, freedom
Yeah.
of choice.
Yeah.
But you do not have a choice.
Mm.
You will open the door. You will let us in. You will do this, this, and this. You will not have a fence put up in around your property. You will not have solar panels. You will not have wind turbines. Whilst they're screaming at the top of their lungs about global warming
Yeah.
and how bad the environment is.
Yeah.
And yet you are not allowed to have solar panels. Your roof is full of solar panels.
Yeah.
None of that energy that's being generated from there, you, in your rent, you pay for those solar panels. But you are also paying for those solar panels through your electricity bill.
Yeah.
There is no reduction in the price at all.
No.
They can't prove whether you've had any energy from those solar panels. They say, well, we can't prove it. But they can prove how much money you owe them through the solar panels at the same rate as it's coming from the electricity grid.
Yeah.
And when you get solar panels yourself, you're not allowed them. And then this makes the question be asked by people, is there really global warming then? If I'm not allowed to use renewable energy in my own garden, from my own property, from my own solar panels, but you're allowed to cash in off of me with solar panels on the roof and call it saving the environment.
Yeah. So it is not saving the environment, is it?
And you do not think that Saffron is making a profit off of that?
Yeah.
But under council tax law, back in the day, and it got reintroduced with the council because they were like, how can we cleverly remove people's rights? Anyone that's inside a house should pay a council tax. Whereas before, if you pay that council tax, you live in that building as you see fit, as long as it sticks to the law. Not acts, not statutes, the law.
Yeah.
Not to commit murder, not to harm anybody, not to do this, this, and this. And yet, these councils don't care if you're a kid being threatened to be killed. Proved this time and time again when growing up. Got it all documented, have the recordings, have the dictaphone recordings of what all the council said. Well, there's nothing we can really do about it until one of your children come home dead, they would say to my mum. We wouldn't come home. That would be the fact.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can really do. But damn me, you get some solar panels and watch them move.
Yeah.
But you're going through an abusive situation? Nothing.
Nothing. that doesn't give them any money or doesn't. Yeah? So why should they bother?
And this nation should be about the people in a democracy and what the people say, not what a few dictators inside a council that have no responsibility. And then, if you know where they live, take a look at their houses.
Yeah.
Who is going to call the council on them about the way they're living with their big boundaries around their house, with their massive protection, with their caravans inside their house? And even if you did call it into the council, are they really going to investigate their own? Honestly, really? No. So there now we have corruption and dictator.
Yeah.
And yet, these are the same individuals that get up on the world stage and say, no, Russia, you can't talk and say what you want in Ukraine. Because we are a democracy. We are freedom. We are... But yet, you, the people, you are not allowed to have this same freedom where you don't have a dictator, which you could look at Russia as the council. In this instant, you could look at Trump, you can look at Putin as the council, and you can look at Trump as the landlord. You should be grateful for what we gave you. You should be happy for it. You're only allowed in that house to generate a rent, but living, you can't do it. You will not burn anything. You will not have a barbecue. You are responsible for the people inside your home. If they cause something that's out of your control, you are responsible for it. You will lose your home if you don't do this. You will lose your home. And again, this is threat. This is threatening behavior. Is threat formulate into a fray? So you can not threaten anybody, but they can threaten you. That is a threat.
Yeah.
It is intimidation. Yeah. It causes alarm and distress. And then it controls people. All of these things, I believe, are illegal. You're not allowed to control anybody. Hey, if you don't do this, you'll lose your tenancy agreement. If you don't remove those solar panels, we'll evict you. That's threat. But because a piece of paper says it, and a council enforces it, and the CEO of the housing association also stands by it, where is that a democracy here? Where do we have a right to say, no, I'm going to respect the law inside my home? But I am not going to be listening to anything on this tenancy agreement at all. At the end of the day, you are paid a rent.
Yeah.
If not, give the house for free. All of them. And bye-bye your council tax. You are not allowed a shed. You are not allowed a greenhouse. You are not allowed to put plants in. Can you believe any of that is inside a tenant? You cannot do any of these things at all.
That is absolutely stupid.
You must leave the property untouched. That is including the garden. But you get a hedge that grows too high, council turn up.
Yeah. Or you do not cut your grass often enough.
You don't cut your grass often enough, council turn up. You put in a shed, council turn up. So who is spying on you to know how you live inside your garden? Council.
Yeah.
So that means that people are spying on you and the way you live inside your premises.
Yeah.
But another one of the rights is to live unmolested, isn't it? To have freedom and privacy in your own home. So how does that work? That includes your garden too, to live as you see fit. Then we go on to landowner. So let's say if we go and buy some land.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether it's okay for you to buy a forest and then cut down all the trees, it would make sense that no, you can't cut down the trees. We're in a bit of a climate disorder right now. You know, if you want land where you want to do something with it, you need to buy land without trees. But other than that, if you buy a piece of forestry or whatnot, you can't cut it down. However, you are not allowed to build a shed. You are not allowed to go to that land in the summer and think, right, I got my home, but I want to go into my land. I want to go and stay in my shed over the summer holidays, which is 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 months. I want to spend the whole summer inside this forest, inside a shed with my solar panels. You're only allowed to stay there for what, 12 days? If not, the council will come and fine you. So if you buy a piece of land under this dictatorship council that we've got, you can only stay there for 12 days.
That is ridiculous.
Who made these rules? Well, but it would be okay for me to go and spend time in a holiday home at top price. And pay into their pocket. So they're allowed to. They have some sort of freedom that you don't. They've bought the land like you have. But they're allowed to do that and take your money from you. But you can't go and have a holiday in your own land in a shack run by renewable energy, which is far more beneficial to the environment. You're not allowed to do it. So you've bought the land, but you are only allowed to treat it like a fine art museum. You're just allowed to watch it.
Go for a walk and go home.
Go for a walk, then go home, keep paying the council tax. There's more than enough money for us to defend Ukraine's freedom from a dictator. What's the difference? Somewhere along the lines, where is the difference? And then anyone that's bought land, what do you do with it? Are you allowed to build a house there? No, because of planning permission. That makes sense. But you can't build a shack? You can't put a shed on it?
That doesn't make sense because shed you just...
And they'll say, oh, but you can build a wooden structure. Go try it. Go and do it. And then once again, where's your freedom? How is that freedom when you have to ask for everything? Why do people move out of their home with their mum and dads? Because they constantly have to ask their mum and dad for stuff. Mum, can I go out? Mum, can I get this? Mum, can I have this? Dad, can I get this? Dad, can I get that? No, no, yes, no, yes. If you want your own freedom, go get your own property. Go buy your own land. But you don't have it because you've got to ask the mummy council. And you've got to ask your daddy housing association, right? That's called giving up power. You tell me. And then how do you manage to rope a law up that is clear as day that none of you are following it? None of you. Because the law states that you will not control people. But you are. The law states that you are not to control other people. The law also states that you are not responsible for anybody else. That's like this whole Epstein thing that's going on. All those people that were around him should have controlled him then, right? If I was in a group and someone committed a crime, what's the chances of you being put in prison for accessory for 9 years? Well, you must have known. You must have known that was going on. Where is it in the law that I have freedom then? Freedom of privacy, freedom to do as I see fit, as long as I'm not breaking the law. Where is it? Where's yours? We get to vote. We get to vote leaders in, but we don't have a say on whether this council bollocks continues, this dictatorship, because that's what it is.
Hmm.
I didn't know you needed permission to ask for solar panels. Well, apparently you do. It's
Yeah.
not written in the tenancy agreement, but, you know, the council started this.
Yeah, they did.
Totally failed to do the job that they were meant to come and do.
Yeah. Ignored
Ignored it.
Yeah.
Lied about it.
Yeah.
But yet when it comes to, you know, when it comes to controlling you a little bit more, and then tell me why people would leave the UK then. Because other nations don't have council tax. And let's hope you never ever have council tax. Because these are the most dictatorships inside your democracy that you'll have to endure. Let's say the EU decide, oh, we're going to need a council tax. We're going to need this. Nothing says freedom and democracy and freedom. But yet you then have these tyrants that dictate to everybody how they will live in their property, what sort of heating they will have.
Yeah.
The roofs are occupied by these occupiers.
Yeah.
So you can't put your own solar panels on the roof and save yourself a bit of money.
Yeah.
So once again, that doesn't help the corporation, does it? The energy corporation.
Yeah.
If you do what you want inside your property, well, that doesn't help the housing association corporation, does it?
No.
And then, what say you have some land where you decide to go on holiday in your own land. It's a nice hot summer. You go over to your land. You build a shack. You want to stay there with your family and have a holiday inside your own land. With solar panels, saving yourself a little bit more money and doing some good for the environment as you go. No, that doesn't help the corporation, does it?
No.
What corporations are that? Holiday homes.
Holiday homes, and you could say to council that you don't want to pay council tax if you are not home or something, and so they will support it as well, won't they?
Another thing is, if we've got social housing here and they say we're going to be putting up the rent,
Yeah.
why don't you stop putting up the rent and start cutting back on what you're spending? Why do we have a CEO?
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a CEO. The CEO should be the tax pot. You should stand down. After all, it was taxpayers that built these houses anyway. So remove the CEO and put the money back into the tax pot.
Yeah.
To go on to build more houses so that there is always funds there for houses.
Yeah.
Rather than sitting there saying that we don't have enough money to build houses, we haven't got enough this. Well, perhaps if you didn't sell it or give it to a CEO, the amount of control that the council have over this house, and then they claim that they're nothing to do with it, they sold all of these houses, then why do the council assert so much dominance over you and the people inside them?
Yeah. That's a good question, yeah.
We got another thing here. We got these things called static caravans, yeah? Did you know that static caravans, and there are then these fields where people put their static caravans, yeah?
Yeah.
And then people can stay there, but you're not allowed to live there. So there's no living on these static caravans. There's that.
Yeah.
And you can't be there all year. You could be there 12 months of the year. No, 11 months of the year, but you can't be there 12 months.
Yeah.
If you were there 11 months of the year, you're not allowed to live there. Another thing is, when these static caravans are past 10 years old, you're not allowed to have the static caravans on the park. Do you know how many static caravans are for sale to people who don't know that you can't do anything with that static caravan? If you bought that static caravan, could you have it in your garden?
No.
Well, no, because the council have made sure that you can't have it there.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to have it on your own land that you've bought? No, you can't have it there because the council have made sure, because they're dictatorship, right?
Because you need planning permission for that.
Interesting, although it doesn't formulate inside planning permission.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll see. Because, again, does that help their private landlords out?
Yeah.
No, doesn't, does it? If they say yes to you,
No, if they say no, sorry.
if they say no, it doesn't help them, does
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
But if they say no, it helps them. If
Yeah.
they say yes, it
It
doesn't help
doesn't
them.
help them. Yeah. So it helps them say no.
So what are you supposed to do with those old static caravans that are now no good? All of that metal, all of that wiring, all of that polystyrene, all of that plastic, well, it has to rot somewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or you sell it to someone who doesn't know. You can't put it on your own land.
Mm.
You can't put it in your rented house.
Yeah.
You are not allowed it in your garden.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the point in even building them then? Or selling them? And then we got this other thing that's really strange.
Yeah.
Where we've got this housing crisis.
Yeah.
There's not enough houses. Well, there is enough houses, but there are so many houses that we've got here in Britain that are all falling down.
Yeah.
Do you know they're street after
Yeah.
street?
Yeah.
They are squalor housing. No one wants them.
Yeah.
They're just left there. All of that concrete that released its carbon, all of that plastic, that
Yeah.
wood inside
Yeah.
these buildings is all just falling down.
Mm.
No one wants it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't look after it.
Yeah.
And just like most of the rich do, when they're filthy rich, they just leave their toys and go on to something else.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to put their money. Because rent is not for upkeep of the property. No. Rent is for pockets and upkeep of their own houses.
Yeah. That's what they do.
So you've got a lot of not sticking to a tenancy agreement, but yet no one's evicting them from the company, though, are they?
Mm.
So we've got these static caravans. And we got a housing crisis. So why can't I have a piece of land then?
Mm.
Buy a piece of land, put these old ancient static caravans that are still very good,
Yeah.
very useful
Yeah.
on the land, and then house people in them.
Yeah. They could be serviced once a year. Make
Exactly.
sure that all the
Gas and everything
gas
else
and
is
water
working.
and toilets are working.
Ask the
Yeah.
people that buy these static caravans on that piece of land.
Yeah.
Look, maybe you should put some solar panels on there. We've got some solar panels at dirt cheap prices. You know, it'll save you a bit of
Yeah.
bob.
Yeah.
And you know what? You begin to temporarily give people a place to live.
Yeah.
Until a house comes available.
Yeah.
And then the council will be like, where's my money? Where's my money? I want money. Oh, you won't be allowed to do this. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do... I mean, where do you get off coming into other people's bought and paid for land, telling them how they will and won't live on this land? The land that doesn't even belong to you. You didn't buy it. It's got nothing to do with you. Fence all the way around the outside of the property. Go away and mind your own business.
Yeah.
These people have made a living out of being dictators,
Mm-hmm.
switching up the laws in under the guise of it's going to help you. But it isn't. It's helping them.
Their
And it's
pockets,
helping
yeah.
their friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that the people have come so complacent over time. So complacent. We all have power inside of us to stand up to this and say enough is enough. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
People say, oh, you're slagging off your country. Yeah, when it starts acting and behaving like the very thing that we're throwing tons of money at to try and defend. When we've got it in our own nation. Let's keep looking over there. When are we going to start looking over here?
Yeah.
Is it going to be after we've helped Ukraine, during helping Ukraine, or is it because people are starting to wake up to the control and dictatorship that we have inside our country under the guise of freedom, democracy, this, and this? At least call it what it is.
Yep.
And then perhaps we wouldn't be living in such a mess of a nation. Do you wonder why kids grow up and leave the United Kingdom? Where is there any land perspective?
Where is there any perspective?
Where is there any? You live inside a house.
Yeah.
They're trying to get away from mum and dad because of the control, and yet they jump into another ring of control.
Yeah.
And I think they're sick of it. Most of these houses are built with poisonous substances.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay as long as you don't grind it or crumble it. Is anyone reminding you at Christmas that those ceilings with the Artex contain asbestos? Don't go sticking drawing pins in it.
No.
No? Is the council funding campaigns with this to warn people year in and year out? If you're in this building, we're going to write you a letter because we know that there's toxic substances inside the house.
Yeah.
That if you go to press that drawing pin into the ceiling and you breathe that in, what about the housing association? They printing out those letters?
No.
No, but they soon print you out a letter to tell you what they're spending your money on. Soon printing a letter out to tell you what you can and can't do inside your property while you rent it.
Yeah.
Threatening you with a tenancy agreement. And what's the threat for them then?
Threatening you with eviction. There's no threat for them, is there?
There's nothing.
No.
You used to think it would be the council, right? How many times have you pulled in a council and a year later there's still no progress? The council defend the company. I thought you were there for the people. And I can't hold you responsible for this because you then start, when they know that they're starting to fall down with this shit and how tyranny it is, right? Is it called tyranny? I think it is. They then get Saffron to write it to me instead about solar panels because it's in our tenancy agreement. I'm sorry, I've read it. It isn't even in the tenancy agreement, and even if it was, so you can harass me. You can spy on me. You can harass me. And it's not just me. This is other people as well. Perhaps it's not everybody, but does it matter? The fact is that it's potential to be everybody. That's what it stands for. It's sat in the waiting lines, ready to go.
Yeah.
So you pay a tax for a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Do you get to vote on whether that is okay or not?
No.
Do you get a vote to say that I don't accept this?
No.
If we all stood up, Martin Luther King taught us an awful lot, that when we begin to stand up, gee me, if they're asking Russians when they leave the border, why didn't you protest? For the same reason why people don't protest here. 1, do you ever get listened to?
No.
2, do they shadow ban the arse out of any video that speaks like this?
Yeah.
I'll give you a clue. You know, the very same tactics that you use is why people won't stand up in Russia. But we'll call that out, but we won't call it out here. Now, if there's money in the pot, which there seems to be, why can't we clear this up?
Yeah. Because if we did, the nation would thrive even more, wouldn't it?
People wouldn't want to leave. People would want to come here. People would want to buy land.
Yeah.
They want to live on it. They probably want other people to live on it, which is better for the environment. Not this way. This is better for profit. These are the same people that have got pockets of money that they are cutting down forests left, right, and center in other nations. The Amazon, everywhere else, they're cutting all of this down. Same ones that are still charging and profiting off of global warming. And yet, these are the ones at the forefront that are running the whole situation here.
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to build a tent on your own land that you've bought. You can't even put up a tent.
It's ridiculous. That is unbelievable.
So when I look at it, and I look at the world stage, that's why I say it that way. You know, to remove the fear of, you know, Armageddon, let's say. Oh, my days. So Russia are like the council. Know this, know that, know this. America is like the landlord when they say, you know, not America, it's more like Trump. Be grateful. Look at what we gave you. Be grateful. Say thank you. You know. And then what's the UK's role in that? To act like the what? calling it out.
Mm.
Now, I agree to call it out.
Yeah.
But Ukraine get to choose what they do. But then for Ukraine to choose what they do, okay, there's casualties in this. It's a very terrible analogy, which I'll move on to another video, which will, go on to that. I'm not overlooking how absolutely vulgar this is, to be honest, this whole situation, but still, I got to call it for what it is. If they go to war on dictators, then where's the war on our in-house dictatorship? Unless you're going to tell me that Russia are in control of all the councils here and are dictating to the people the way they live. But then didn't make any sense because I think in Mongolia, you say?
Yeah.
The Mongolian, what's the houses? The things they would dig up and they would live. You could go into the woods somewhere and make a shack somewhere out of the land.
You mean the Zemlyankas in Russia?
Zemlyankas. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They used to build them because they
didn't have enough houses.
Yeah, they didn't have houses and they probably didn't have enough material, but would be enough to hold the land and make nice inside.
You've seen it here, right? We've got places that the monasteries and the nunneries and the nuns and the monks gave to the people this land for them to do what they see fit on the land.
Yeah.
How many times you get the council there telling you that you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But if the people wanted to take some animals there, they could. But the one thing you're not allowed to do is restrict people's movement on that land. So if there were animals, they would be allowed to walk in the places where the animals are.
Yeah.
Take a look at the parks that are around, where they're putting the animals, but then shutting off a hill.
Yeah.
And then there's a sign saying from the council that you are not allowed on here whilst there are animals. Yeah. Wait, what? This is not your land.
And made so many enclosures that it's difficult to walk there as well, because you have to look where the path leads and if you want it to go that way or this way.
But it's not your land.
Yeah.
But you're slowly but surely trying to dominate it so that you take it over and then eventually it becomes your land. And then you will, charge people to go to these places.
Yeah.
And the council are very good at this. If there is a public track somewhere for somebody, all people to go, they will then take this back off you and build something there, but not the open fields that are around. Could you tell me where the fairness is in that?
There's no fairness.
So is Ukraine's freedom going to be freedom, or is it going to be freedom with dictatorship councils within it?
I don't know their structure, so I can't tell.
Is that what we're going to find that is going to happen? And if it is, then...
I don't think they have it like here. I think here is over control everywhere and a lot of bureaucracy everywhere.
I know that's the one excuse that everyone says, it's just bureaucracy. No, it is not bureaucracy. They've made it bureaucracy.
Yeah.
We don't have to have bureaucracy.
That's the control.
We can remove all of the bureaucracy, and we'll all say, just like the international stage would say, we have international rules. This is the rules that we all agree to. We won't be doing this, we won't be doing that. The international law. But then whoever made the international law, are they changing it and bringing out an act so that they can take over a little bit more land?
No.
No? Well, why not? Because all the other nations will be in the arse about it, won't they? All the other leaders will say, hang on a minute, that's not fair. So you can control it there, but you can't do it in your own, where we stick and we all agree to the law, not the acts, not the statutes that come out. The fundamental principle of the law. And yet, they'll say, you paid a council tax because it's an act. We said so. Yeah, but the law states this. I don't care what the law says. It's this act we're following. Hang on a minute. That's like saying that you're taking this part of the law, but this bit is ignored, but yet that law is what funds this and props up this. But without all the freedom attached to it. So you take away the freedom and you give the act. which then says a load of dictatorship. But because it's a piece of paper saying it, and if it came to a vote, no one in the United Kingdom are going to vote for that. Therefore, that is dictatorship. That isn't a democracy because we did not vote for that.
Yeah.
And then that's it. What, we got these councils? I am absolutely disappointed in them. Actually, I'm shocked. I'm disgusted. What an absolute disgrace to my grandparents' names that would fight in a bloody war against dictatorship being so bad. And they laid down their lives, and yet it rises up and gets to their generation anyway. Even though they fought battles.
Yeah.
Forcefully fought battles to stop dictatorship, for it to erupt and thrive and prosper in the very nation that they fought and laid down their lives to defend. Because it wasn't any of you in the trenches. It was not any of you. And we need to look at this. Because to call it is rich. And then, where are the rest of these European leaders that I see standing up on that stage that are defending Ukraine? Where is the defense here? So it's okay to have control and dictatorship in a nation that claims to be a democracy because there aren't bullets being fired. Well, it's okay to be a dictator as long as you don't kill anyone. So it's okay for you to invade our land. It's okay for you to invade our space with your tyranny when we don't want it. I don't want it. I do not want it.
Yeah.
I do not want the council coming into my property, dictating to me how I should frickin' live. I don't want it. I don't want the housing association telling me how I can and can't live inside my own home. When I thought I paid a price for that freedom.
Yeah.
And when I say I don't want it, they'll use threat, force, manipulation, mental tactics. So would I be allowed to defend myself then with any means necessary then, like another nation is defending themselves against communism because it's invading me? Am I allowed to get security? Can I build my own NATO, can I? Can the people start building their own NATO, which would be their voice? It's funny how we know how to do it in a diplomatic way. Are we allowed to build our defense mechanisms around our house in order to push all of that shit out of our life because we don't want it?
No one listens anyway.
Why don't you just protest? Because you don't listen.
Yeah.
You don't listen. You clearly don't get it. You keep going on about it.
Yeah, because the army or whoever would come against the people.
So yeah, I'm pushing back because you lot, for most of my life, my influences and dealings with the council have been toxic as anything. And when they don't get their own way, my word, do they pull out all the stops, all of the mental tactics, the manipulation, all of the crap that they come out with, all of their disheartening ways. They make your life an absolute fucking misery, is what they do.
Yeah, they do that.
They go to war on you, but snidey.
Yeah.
Just like all freaking dictators do, right? It's all
Yeah.
snidey, right?
Mm.
So yeah, my war on dictatorship, this is it.
Mhm.
And for good freaking reason.
Yeah.
And anybody else that owns land? Wow. What do you own the land for?
Mm.
Status. Look what I've got.
Yeah, and they never set their foot on some of the land at all, do they? The people who
Just to
own
be able to control other people to keep off it.
yeah, or just to rent it so they can get money from it.
So you buy land and you can tell people to keep off it.
Yeah.
Because you're in this same council club.
Mm.
But yet, if I want others to keep off of my property, I ain't got shit all to say about it.
Mm.
I'm not even allowed to erect an fence.
Mm.
Can you believe that?
Here in
But
this
yeah, I've got
country.
different animals coming in attacking mine
Mm. Mm.
from people who have money and have bought their land. Damn me.
Yeah.
I got people entering the property whenever they like. So I'm not allowed to do anything to protect myself, no? Do the council care? No. Can you prove it? Well, it seems to be you're able to be everywhere and got your eyes and ears up a duck's ass, apparently, but yet you ain't got your eyes and ears when it comes to something like this. You didn't see that then? That one slipped your notice, did it?
Mm.
Because it wasn't a big caravan, because it wasn't a solar panel. So if the person was dressed up like a solar panel, you'd see them.
Yeah.
So no, no. And this is power. This ain't power. This is not power. This is an illusion that you create.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King taught very well that when you begin to stand up to this, everybody stands up to it. This is then when it ends. And then with all of this fining and all of this eviction and everything else, you know. Hence why they don't allow you to have RV static caravans anywhere. Unless they're a certain age, because you've got to get them off the property because of this. We've just made this up. We'll create a housing crisis so that you know that if you don't comply and they evict you from your house, look where you go. This is what it's for.
Yeah.
Fear.
Mm.
But I don't fear you. In fact, this is going to give me the most determination I've ever had in order to rise up and point this out. And why? Because you know in your heart of hearts that this is terrible, and yet you got the audacity, the nerve to call it out. So, whilst the landlord says, be grateful for what you've got. That's incredible. You ought to be grateful for the rent that you've got.
Yeah.
Considering if people knew the truth. And then with that rent, here's another increase. Why is that? Well, because we're paying charities, we're also paying this, we've also got the CEO to pay. We allow all the workers to take the vans home and they're using the diesel inside it, so we got to pay for that too. Oh, okay then. Anything else you're skimming off the top that you let your staff skim off? Is there not enough staff members around to do repairs? Is because they're too busy inside your houses? The ones at work, you know, we skimming off the top there as well, are we?
Yeah.
I before you, is it? But except after C. What's C? No, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So, you know, as much as we're going all out for this, yeah, there's not enough money to do it here at home as well. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Can't have a wind turbine. What the hell? You can't have solar panels. Safety. You might wire it in wrong. What the actual hell? So we're in a climate crisis, but we're not. We've got a housing crisis, but we haven't.
Yeah.
We would temporarily sort the housing crisis out, really, wouldn't we? Oh, there isn't enough of this going around.
There wouldn't be enough tax. Oh my god.
Because how would we ever be able to charge people in a static caravan the same amount of tax to people in a street, to people in a town, sorry, to people in the country, to people in the city?
Exactly.
Then when we add up how much tax people are actually paying per year, and then how the hell did you get in debt? And these are the same voices that say anyone with a little that is not responsible with a little won't be trusted with a lot. Wait, what?
Yeah, they take basically one of your wages, 1 month wage, for their council tax extra on the top.
That's just on council tax.
Yeah.
That's not including food tax, fuel tax,
Yeah.
work tax.
Yeah, and the rest is eating into those 11 wages that are left. How are you supposed to live from that?
That's not including the tax on your rent.
Yeah. It looks like these leaders in this nation, whichever posts they are on, are completely unable to count and do good planning and run the country without loss.
Oh, it's very strange. This is very strange.
Yeah. Incapable people. They need so much tax and it's not good enough.
But can't control the CEOs to pay a tax.
Yeah.
They get less and less tax to pay. They push more and more onto the people.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if all the CEOs are in control of all of this.
Yeah.
Look at these gospels that came true over here in this. Are you sure you didn't make it like that? Are you sure you didn't make it like that? What do you mean? How do you mean? They couldn't, if they're in control of all of this stuff. Then you can write any amount of predictions and make it happen, and that could be a script that you are following. So, script, or did that actually happen? Did you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I could make a script, but then call it something that's not a script, but yet all these events keep happening, and this script would appear to have predicted all of the events that happened. But how is that predicting it? Unless you knew that it was going to go this way, and therefore plain insight script. And then you can assemble everything else into that: a belief system, a narrative, a control system. But yeah, there we are. I'm going to leave it here because I think I covered pretty much on that one. But yeah, so yeah, if Ukraine get to say what goes inside their land, then do the people in Ukraine, once this is all over with, get to say what happens inside their houses? Or does it only work for the ones at the top? And then it works in reverse for everybody else. You don't do what we do, you do what we fucking tell you type attitude. So which is it? Because
that's not democracy.
It's not democracy, no, it really isn't. It could be. And yeah, but live in hope, right? Live in hope that it would begin to change that way. Yeah, real prosperity for the UK at the same time, you know? And then hopefully this is all like a look-in lesson because it's exactly the same, but that's on a bigger scale. This is on a different scale, and it would show that we're more amicable about trying to find a solution for this without going all out war.
Yep.
Again, you don't do what we do, you do what we tell you. You follow the law and humaneness and don't do this, and that all human life is to be respected. But yet we're looked at it that human life is not respected. Anyway, so moving on. Okie dokie.